Okay, so they can take, if they score 61, they can take Mac 1147, pre-calc algebra and trigonometry, or they can take survey of calc, or what else can they take? They scored a 61 on the ALEKS.
They can take classes below that if they feel like they need to like review more.
Or any class below if they feel like they need to review more. Now, this student's interested in engineering and finance, and they're trying to make a decision. What math do we recommend? We talked about what they can take. And again, when I'm talking about placement, I always start with what can a student do? And we know that this student can take MAC 1147 and down, or they can take MAC 2233 and down. But what math do we recommend they take? They're interested in engineering or finance.
I mean, I would personally say 1140 because like they're right on the cusp for 1147. But if they go 1140 and then they decide to go one route over the other, they've got the prereq for either one.
Okay, so let's say you go 1140. Let's actually talk about this, right? The ALEKS cutoffs are strategic, right? And I know that 61 is close to 60, but 61 is still in MAC 1147. Now, when we're talking about math placement recommendations, you want to ask a student, what's the highest level math they've taken in high school, right? Because what's a good explanation of MAC 1147? What is MAC 1147? This was one of the bonus questions during class.
Pre-calc algebra and trig.
Pre-calc algebra and trigonometry, that's the class. But how would you describe MAC 1147?
It's like a combination of 1140 and MAC 1114.
Absolutely, those are absolutely correct. But if you were, and I'm really using Kayla's example here of a student on the cusp that has a 61, right? And they say, well, Alex, what is MAC 1147? How would you describe that to a student? And this was in the module. It's a review. It's pre-calculus review, right? And so MAC 1147, you're going to be reviewing pre-calculus. And when you say review, what's the assumption when you're reviewing something?
You're taking the time to go over it so that you understand it well.
Alex, if I told you I was teaching you something and I told you we were going to review something, which one do you think is more intense?
Teaching.
Teaching. So back to Kaylee's point, if MAC 1147 is a review of pre-calculus, what do you think is going to benefit our students we're recommending going into MAC 1147? And this isn't just for you, Alex, this is for everybody. If we're going to recommend a student go into MAC 1147 and they're on the cusp of the ALEKS cutoff, what do you think would help us make that decision or not? Make the decision of our recommendation.
Whether or not they've taken the course, like to go over it, because if they've already taken it, then their review would be beneficial. But if they haven't taken it, and there's no reason for them to be going through review because they haven't actually learned the concepts.
Absolutely. So that goes into a student's background. And I promise you I'm going somewhere with this. I'm going to bring back in Kaylee's point. Now, Kaylee recommended MAC 1140 over MAC 1147, but the only information we were going on was a student had a 61 on the ALEKS. If our only information is a 61 on the ALEKS, let's recommend MAC 1147, okay? Because that's the ALEKS cutoff. But to your point, Kaylee, it is worth asking the student, what's your background in math? Have you ever taken a calculus class before? Have you ever taken pre-calculus before? Because if a student has never taken calculus before, or they've never taken pre-calculus, they may not want a review of pre-calculus. They maybe want to break that down into MAC 1140 and MAC 1114. That makes sense? And that's not to say in MAC 1147, you're not going to be taught anything and it's just going to be a review the entire time. No, it's still a class. You're still going to have exams and you're still going to be taught things. But the approach to the class is it's more of a preparation tool for calculus. It's a review of pre-calculus, right? Now, to this point, The only thing we know about this student is they earned a 61 on the ALEKS exam. And we know that they're interested in engineering or finance. What's our math recommendation?
Mac 1147, because that puts you on track for Calculus 1, which will supersede credit for Survey of Calc.
Absolutely. But Megan, why did you still go with business calculus? And you're fine to type in the chat if you'd like. Does anyone else not have MAC 1147 as their answer, or not see? No, so you got them flipped. 2311 covers 2311 covers 2233. But what you're going to run into is a student is going to, and our projected student is interested in engineering and interested in finance. They're going to see business calculus in critical tracking. And they're going to say, oh, I should take business calculus. But why is MAC 1147 the more appropriate answer here?
Because for engineering, oh God, I can hear myself. They'll need the MAC 2233, and that's a higher math course, so it'll cover their business calc.
Absolutely. Eventually, if they're going to make it to engineering, they'll need to take Calculus 1. And Calculus 1 will supersede MAC 2233. And the reason we're in between these options right now is because the student wants to do both, right? The student is saying, I'm in between both. Now, Brooke, what if this student told you, I'm interested in finance and I want to take a math my first semester? What math class? And they scored a 61 on the ALEKS. What'd you recommend? 61 on the ALEKS. They want to be a finance major and they want to take a math their first semester. What's your recommendation?
I would probably ask them their history of math classes just to see how prepared they are for MAC 2233.
Sure.
But
So, I mean, that is one thing that I'm going to say this again, and this is something that I want you all to, one, let it resonate, but two, I got to say this to the entire class. You can't take the brunt and think about difficulty for the student. We're making decisions on difficulty for students we don't even know. We're saying take MAC 1140 because calculus is hard, or take MAC 1140 because business calculus is hard. We don't have that information. You can't make decisions on difficulty for the student. That's why we have placement techniques. Trust the placement technique. If the student scores a 61, they're prepared for MAC 1147. If the student scores a 35, they're prepared for MAC 11. Like, trust the placement. And because when we get to chemistry, we're going to start doing this, and we do this for foreign language as well. I'm not going to recommend Spanish 1 because foreign languages are hard. Hard to who? Hard to you. If this student is interested in Spanish, let them take Spanish. So go ahead and start recalibrating your mind. And this isn't just on Brooke. This is something that I still do as an advisor, and previous advisors do. When we have placement techniques, don't try to think about difficulty for the student. All right. Where do you place? To Brooke's point, what's your background in math? Have you ever taken calculus before? What's the highest level math you took in high school? Did you take a math your senior year? How fresh is this information, right? This will give us the information to make a decision, but we can't take the difficulty conversation for the student. I can't pass chemistry, all right? I'll be honest. I took chemistry in 10th grade, never went to see it ever again. But I know there are plenty of students that are prepared for chemistry at the University of Florida. There are plenty of students that can take chemistry and calculus together at the University of Florida. So let's rely on our placement cutoffs more heavily. But when it comes towards math placement, there are 3 evaluations we want to make. ALEKS score. What's the highest level math you've taken in high school? What math did you take your senior year? What's your comfort level with math? We'll use those evaluations to make a recommendation, But if a student, if the only information we have is the student scored a 73 on the ALEKS, they place into calculus. Let's recommend calculus. But we know when we're meeting with the student, we're gonna ask those additional questions. We're getting more people in here, so I'll go into an example, but I want to stay on this math example. Okay. Now, let's say you have a student and they want to go into biology, which requires calculus 1. The only thing we know about the student is they scored a 50 on the ALEKS exam. They want to go into biology. We know biology requires calculus 1. They scored a 50 on the ALEKS. What's our math recommendation?
Mac 1140.
Okay, so if we're recommending Mac 1140, Kaylee, what is this student's path to get to calculus 1? They take Mac 1140, then what?
So it'll be Mac 1140, and then wasn't it 1114?
Trigonometry.
Yeah, so and they'll have to do the 2 of those instead of just 1147. So they'll do 1140 and 1114 interchangeably, like whichever one they want to do first, and then they'll take 2311.
Absolutely. So with that being said, and I know I'm doing a lot of sharing, not sharing, but bear with me for just one moment. With that being said, and this is what I really wanted to answer, and I think it's what you all's question kind of related on, is let me bring up my placement PowerPoint. Give me one moment. Welcome everyone to the room. And for the people that are here, be mindful, you can come and go as you please. We're just wrapping up a little bit of information about placement to kind of understand placement recommendations, but I do have some cases to go over, and I'll probably pilot a case later in a few moments as well. But while we're talking about math placement and we're talking about math sequencing, let's go here. So when it comes towards the math sequence, this is what I want. If this student scored a 50 on the ALEKS, and we know they're going to calculus 1, right? And they start in MAC 1140. Why wouldn't they go MAC 1140, MAC 1147, then Calc 1?
Because the information that they learned in 1140 will basically be repeated in 1147, just with the addition of the trigonometry. So why spend another semester relearning what you already learned when you can take a course that is something new that will challenge you in a new way?
Absolutely. Now, Emma, what if this student started at MAC 1105 and they're trying to get to calculus 1? Why wouldn't they go MAC 1105 and jump to MAC 1147?
I guess I would say with 1147, I think it could just be a little bit overwhelming learning 2 different concepts at once, especially after doing MAC 1105. Also, it's only, I think, 2 additional credits, I think, with when you add MAC 1140 and 1114. So it just like, it's kind of like it makes sense to just follow on that path and take 1 extra semester of math before you get to calculus 1. Like there's no reason to kind of overwhelm yourself after doing 1105.
All right, Emma, I'm gonna stay with you because we'll do some back and forth right now. Why would a student be placed in 1105 in the first place?
They might not have a super strong background in math. Like they might have not taken AP like classes in high school, or their high school might not have offered like as high level of courses. So if they're coming in MAC 1105, it means their background in math might just be a little bit weaker or just less proficient than other students. And so I think it's more important to set them up for success and to give them courses that are actually going to pace them in like a relatively not overwhelming way, to make sure that by the time they get to calculus 1, they're actually set up for success and will be able to handle the course material that the majors that require calculus 1 need.
Okay, Wyatt, that was a really thorough and in-depth answer. I appreciate that. Why else would a student start in MAC 1105? We understand their background, but why else would they start in MAC 1105? And this is for everyone, not just Emma.
Their ALEKS
Maybe
score.
they didn't.
All right, who said the magic A word?
Oh, that was me, but I think Allison was just about to say it.
Go ahead, Allison.
Oh, I wasn't gonna say the Alex exam. I was just gonna say that maybe they didn't come in with any incoming credit, so they have to start at.
Yeah, but quite simply, go ahead, Kayla.
I was just gonna say I'm a little bit confused. So it has like MAC 1105 to 1140. Oh wait, never mind. Sorry. Okay, I was confused. I thought that it was they both ended up in 2311, but the top one's for business calc. So never mind.
Because business calculus doesn't require trigonometry, right? You can
Yep.
go 1105, 1140, 2233. But with this 1105, Allison, if a student's Alex score placed them into 1105, right? Would they be eligible to take MAC 1147 even if they wanted to?
No, not if their Alex score was placing them in 11.5.
And what's the prereq to be able to take MAC 1140?
11.05,
Or what?
or scoring high enough in the Alex.
Absolutely, or scoring high enough on the Alex. Now, how many times do we recommend a student take the Alex exam?
Once,
Why?
because that's the most successful prediction.
Your first score is most indicative of success at the University of Florida, right? So if we have a student that placed in the MAC 1105, we understand they don't meet the prereq for 1147. We also understand MAC 1105 is a prereq for MAC 1140, and we don't want a student jumping from 1140 to 1147. So when a student starts on this sequence, they're almost locked into that sequence. Not only are they locked into it because of their Alex score, but it goes into how the prerequisites work, right? And when we take a look at prerequisites, when it comes towards math, MAC 1105 is the prereq for MAC 1140. MAC 1147 is the prereq for MAC 2311. MAC 1140 is the prereq for MAC 2233. So not only do these prereqs work this way, but that influences the sequencing. What's the only way a student can take business calculus? What's the only way to take MAC 2233?
If they're projected to be in a major where they need business calculus instead of normal Calc 1.
Okay, let's say this student is an accounting major, so they need business calculus.
Yep.
How can they meet the prerequisites to take business calculus?
They can take the Alex.
Or what else?
There's a separate breakdown of different scoring things if your track takes you towards business calc than it is for Calc 1.
Right. So they can take the Alex, or how else can they meet the prerequisite?
Having Calc 1 counts for it as well because it's a higher course number and also covers more material than business calc covers.
Sure. You're answering a question I'm not even asking. So the only question I'm asking is how can they take business calculus? How can they meet the prerequisite? You've already mentioned the Alex score. How else can they meet the prerequisite to take business calculus?
I believe 1140 is the class right below it, but I'm not entirely certain.
You're absolutely right. MAC 1140 is the prerequisite to take business calculus. Now, what's the only way you can take MAC 1140?
Is if your Alex score puts you into MAC 1140, and those breakdowns are on your track for business calc. I believe it's like 26 to 50 or something.
Sure. I don't even care about that right now. We got the Alex score. How else can you meet the prerequisite to take MAC 1140?
MAC 1105.
MAC 1105. And the reason I'm doing this in this way is I want you all to start thinking, and incoming credit, but that would mean you have credit for MAC 1105 or MAC 1140. So it's saying the same thing. The only way to take MAC 2233 is you have the Alex score or you have credit for MAC 1140. The only way to take MAC 1140 is you have the Alex score or you have incoming credit for MAC 1105, right? Now, what's the only way to take Calc 1 at the University of Florida? Someone help me out here.
The only way that you have to get the proper Alex score or have credit. Oh, and
okay.
Actually,
or what else? Alex score or what else?
Well, if you
Or
have
if
credit,
you've completed all the prerequisites.
Correct.
What's the prereq for Calculus 1?
It would go MAC 1147 or 1140 and 1114.
So you're telling me I can meet the prereq for Calc 1 by taking MAC 1147 or taking MAC 1140 and MAC 1114? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, but you would also have to take 1105 before all of that.
Would I?
No, not necessarily.
Why not necessarily, Joey?
Because you may already have background in that. Like if you have the proper ALEC score to get into 1140, then you wouldn't need to like to get into 1140 or 1114. You wouldn't need to take 1105. It would just be if your ALEC score is too low for that.
Right. So where I'm going to close this loop, and what I want you all to understand, and if I'm not making this, bye Emma, if I'm not making this point clearly, let me know. Okay. In order to take MAC 2311, and I'll start in the chat, you need a 76 or higher on ALEX or MAC 1147 or MAC 1140 plus MAC 1114. Everyone with me so far? The only way you get into Calc 1, you score a 76 on the ALEX, you have credit for MAC 1147, or you have credit for 1140 and 1114. We clear there? The only way to take MAC 2233 is 61 or higher on ALEX or credit for MAC 1140, right?
I have a question.
Go ahead, Allison.
Okay, so I think this is where I'm a little confused. So if they have credit for like the 1114, 1140, 1147 and all that, do we just forget about 1105? Is that just like out of the window?
Yeah, it doesn't apply. It doesn't apply, Kayla.
Okay.
It doesn't apply. But to my point, in order to take MAC 2233, you need a 61 or higher on the ALEX, or you need MAC 1140. What's the only way you can take MAC 1140?
Oh, if you take an 1105.
ALEX or MAC 1105. So this will always come back to the ALEX placement. Now, Allison, since you just punched in, walk with me here, right? Now, let's say you've got a student that wants to take Calculus 1, and they scored a 25 on the ALEX. What math class would they start in?
1105.
And then what would they take?
1140.
And then what?
1114.
And then what?
Calc 1.
Calc 1. Now let's say you got a student, they scored a 50 on the ALEX. How can they get to Calc 1?
They would take 1140 and then 1114 and then Calc 1.
Now let's say you got a student, they scored a 70 on the ALEX. How can they get to Calc 1?
They automatically place into it.
With a 70?
Yes, because that's the score.
What's the
Oh wait. Hold on. Oh, I'm looking at the bottom column, excuse me. If they placed the 70, then they would go into 1147.
And then what?
And then Calc 1.
Calc 1. So, and the reason, and I'm glad we're taping this because the entire class should watch this. When it comes towards what math class you take, we start with the ALEX exam or incoming credit. Now, the reason we start with what they can do, because I want to know whether or not Allison can take Calc 1 based off her incoming credit or based off her ALEX regardless. Now, is it in Allison's best interest to take Calc 1? I don't know. Does your major require Calc 1? If it does, then maybe. But I also want to ask Alex, what's the highest level math you took in high school? Excuse me, Allison. What's the highest level math you took in high school? What math did you take your senior year? What's your comfort level in math? Those three questions, in addition to the ALEX score, in addition to their major, should allow me to make a math recommendation. Brooke, what's up?
So is the only way, like the bottom path, you can't take 1105 and then go to 1147. You have to, if you test into 1105, you have to do the 1140, 1114.
Are you saying a student that wants to take business calculus?
No, Calc 1, 2, 3, 1, 1.
All right. So which sequence are we talking about? The business calculus or Calc 1 sequence?
The Calc 1 sequence.
Okay. And you're saying a student that places into 1105, what their path would be?
Yeah, because we have the or option. When would you recommend the 1140 and 1114 versus going just the 1147 route?
Someone help me out here. What dictates what route a student should take?
Their score, right?
Yeah, their ALEC score. Absolutely. What's the only way you can take MAC 1147?
Is you test into it.
Yeah, you got to have the placement,
Okay.
right? So the easy thing about the math sequencing is it's always dictated by your ALEC score or your placement. So Brooke, if you place in the MAC 1105, could you make the jump from 1105 to 1147?
No.
No, you can't. What's the prereq to take MAC 1147?
I don't think I know that one.
What's the prereq to take MAC 1147?
The ALEC score.
The ALEC, that is it. MAC 1147 is the only math class where the only way to get into that class is you place in that class. Because what is MAC 1140? It's an awkward class. What is MAC 1147?
A review.
It is a review of calculus. And when should we have a student go in MAC 1147, Joey?
When they scored the proper score on the ALEX.
Or what else? Now, so they got to have the score. So that's the answer. They have the score on the ALEX. But what would give us insight into when 1147 might be an appropriate recommendation?
Oh, if they're going toward, if they're trying to complete a course that needs, like, if they're in a major that needs calculus 1 or
they're in a major with needs calculus 1. This is still the correct answer. But what would give me information on why this is a good recommendation?
You'd have
Also,
to look
they've-
at what they took and what they're comfortable with.
Absolutely, what they took should now outside of the ALEC score, because if the student makes the ALEC score, they're prepared for that class. But we really should be asking a student, what's your background in math? What's the highest level math you've taken in high school? What's your comfort in math? What math did you take your senior year? Because what do we know about MAC 1147? It is a review of pre-calculus, right? If you want that class broken down in more detailed instruction, do the 1140, do the 1114. But no matter what, try to reprogram yourself of thinking about the difficulty for the student. Trust the ALEX exam, trust their comfort level, because the ALEX exam is one's a hard cutoff. You can want to go in MAC 1147 till the cows come home, right? You can't take MAC 1147 without a 61 or higher on the ALEX, okay? What's the prerequisite to take Calculus 1? What's the only way to take Calc 1?
ALEX score prereq.
ALEX score, there we go, Graham, nice and quick. ALEX score prereq, right? What's the prereq for Calc 1?
Is a combo 1140, 1114, or 1147.
All right, Graham, you're starting to hit them right out of the park. These are softballs now, all right? What's the only way to take business calculus, MAC 2233?
You place
Alex
in
Ford.
or you take the MAC 1140 as your prereq.
Absolutely. Now, Jacqueline, what's the only way to take MAC 1140?
Take MAC 1105
Take MAC 1105. Now,
or place in.
or place into it. So Jacqueline, walk me through this. If a student wants to take business calculus and they place into MAC 1105, what would their path be to take business calculus?
Okay, so starting at 1105, which is basic college algebra, to get to business calculus, they would have to take next MAC 1140, which is pre-calculus algebra, and then go into MAC 2233, which is survey of calc.
Same student, they want to take calculus 1, but they place in the MAC 1105. What's their path?
Okay, so instead of just 1140, they would also have to take 1114, which is trigonometry, and then they would move into Calc 1.
So would they take 1140 and 1114 in the same semester?
No.
No, and that's one, just don't overthink. We never want students to take 2 math classes in the same semester anyway. That just thinking about that, you don't want to take 2 math classes in the same semester. But if they took 1140 and 1114 in the same semester, what is that equivalent to taking?
Mac 1147.
Mac 1147. Do they place into Mac 1147?
No.
No. So we don't want them making that jump. We don't want them jumping from 1105 to 1147. And what you all have to get comfortable with as preview staffers is making sure the student doesn't feel rushed. At the college level, when it comes towards placement, we're gonna work with them. If you want to do engineering and you place in 1105, that is okay. Place them into 1105, help them register for 1105. When they meet with an engineering advisor in the fall semester, we will help them get on track, all right? Keep in mind, don't want to be in a rush. There's math prerequisites that they need to meet, and that the cutoffs are hard cutoffs. You either have the class or you have the ALEC score. I'm gonna stop our math refresher here. Any other questions about math placement? All right, I'm gonna take a quick break. I'll be back in 1 minute, and then we'll look into some cases. So give me 1 moment. All right, I've got some gen ed practice because 65% of you all are still making the same mistake in the gen ed chart, which that makes it a little bit easier for me because there's one mistake to clean up. But now that we've got some juice going, I want to talk about, let's go through a case, all right, just to see where we are. Now, the cases that I have aren't as difficult as the case studies I've assigned you, all right? So just some full transparency here, but I will go through a type of case that I've assigned you so we can talk that through, all right? Now let's see. Don't pay attention to the year. It's fine. It says 2019. We're obviously in year 2035. We'll get past it, right? Now, when it comes towards the case, somebody read this for me. I feel like I've been talking too much.
Leliana is a fall admit who's interested in majoring in applied physiology and kinesiology. She earned a 3 in AP biology, a 4 in AP literature and composition, a 4 in AP chemistry, a 2 in AP economics micro, and a 2 in AP calculus AB. She earned a 70 on the ALEX. What credit has she earned through her AP classes, and what gen ed classes does she still need to fulfill? Please be mindful of her major and how that will impact her gen ed requirements.
All right. Initially, what do we know about Liliana?
She's a fall admit, and she's an APK major.
Fall admit, APK. Don't worry about it, Jonathan. This is come and go as you please. Fall admit, APK major. What else do we know?
Strong science background.
Okay, so strong science background. I would at least say exposed to science. All right. Megan says no calc or no micro. How do you know that, Megan? You're right. How do you know? Right, not a 3 or higher. AP
Yes.
is easy because AP you need a 3 or higher. IB you need a 4 or higher. Okay. Now let's walk this through a little bit more. Now, what questions should we ask Liliana? What I came up with, and this is ignore the second question, is what interests you about this major, right? Like getting back to that quintessential question of why. Why APK? Just talk me through how you came to that decision, right? Are there any other majors or minors that interest you, right? Are these scores predicted or do you already have them, which may pay off later because when we accept predicted versus confirmed scores, are you pre-health or pre-law? Why do these questions matter? Why does it matter to ask her why she's interested in this major?
Well, one of the things that we talked about in one of the first modules was that when students come in with certain majors in mind, it could be that they don't actually know all of the majors and almost certainly don't know all the majors that apply to their interests. And so when we ask them why they want to do particular majors, they could tell us some things that, oh, hey, maybe this other major comes to my mind when you talk about this stuff. Have you ever considered this, that, or the other thing? And so that's why you want to care about what major they are, or at least why they picked that major. So we can tell them what majors that might also fit that why.
Excellent, Graham. This is just information building, all right? The more information you have about the student, the better you're going to be able to assist. This isn't to talk her out of APK, but this is to say, like, oh, I'm choosing APK because I want to be a dietitian and I want to learn more about how diet affects people's, health. Well, did you know we have a nutrition science major? Did you know we have something else related towards, like, so we can help explore other majors based off, dietetics. Thank you, Rachel. Did you know we have a dietetics major? And the response to that question may give us other things to bring up. Not saying we're going to talk the student out of APK, but sometimes what they think doesn't apply to what they actually want, right? And so, Joe, we have a dietetics major. Now, why does it matter if she's pre-health?
Because
I was
gonna say pre-health students have different requirements, especially on different tracks, because I know pre-med, pre-PT, and pre-pharmacy all have different requirements for each one. So if she has the credit for some classes, she might not need it for the others.
Absolutely. And to Megan's point, application, absolutely. And I'll go over this in pre-health training. Pre-health has its own rules. Pre-health has its own rules about repeating classes. Pre-health has its own rules about sequencing classes, and it will change the conversation. And what I find best is to treat your pre-health advising and your major advising as separate advising, although there's points of overlap. All right. And I'll go in that more in depth when we go through pre-health training. Let's continue. Now, breaking down Liliana's AP credit. Anyone have the exam charts up? We can go through quickly because if you guys feel comfortable looking at a score and knowing what courses the students are going to get, I don't need to have you look them up right now. We can just go through this more quickly. All right. So we know a 3 on AP biology gets 2005 and 2005 lab. All right. Megan, you're absolutely correct. Be careful with just saying bio 1 because there's 2 biologies. There's BSc 2005 and there's BSc 2010. As Joey mentioned, BSc 2005 is bio for non-majors, but I just like to categorize BSc 2010 pre-professional biology. All right. So be mindful with bio 1, only because a student could say, oh, Megan told me to take biology, and then they take 2005, but they actually need 2010. Right. AP English Literature, they get AML 2070 and AML 2120. A 4 on chemistry, they get Chem 1 and Chem 2045 lab. And these might be out of date, but it's fine for this example. No credit because of 2, no credit because of 2. But what does that tell us about AB calculus? Even though they scored a 2, what information does that give us?
That they've taken the course, so they know some of the concepts from it, hopefully.
Yeah, they've at least been exposed to calculus. They've been exposed to calculus and they decided to take the AP exam. I'm sure you all took some AP scores. Did your teacher ask you, like, you had the option if you want to take the AP exam, right? Taking the AP exam wasn't mandatory. Or was it?
Oh, I had no option. We had to take it. For
Okay.
me.
Yeah. Mhm.
Well, at this point, at least we know that they took the AP exam and we know they've been exposed to the material, right? And everyone says no choices. We had to take it. Now, breaking down this credit, what do we know about BSc 2005 and 2005 lab? What gen ed category does it count towards?
Biosciences.
Biological sciences. So, and then to your point, Rachel, you can group biological and physical science together, but it is a biological science. But the gen ed category is gen ed, biological, and physical, right? Now to make that more confusing. So is BSc 2005 is just a biological science?
Yeah.
State core. Thank you, Rachel. It's a state core science. When it's state core, say it's state core. And I promise you it will save you. All right. Now, and you see in my slide, state core science, gen ed, biological science, right? What about AML 2070 and Lit 2120? Where can these courses count? And you might want to have up your 1.uf just to, okay, composition. What else, Megan?
Doesn't it also count as the humanities?
It does. It's composition or humanities. All right. Now, where should the student use it? Do they have to use it in composition or do they have to use it in humanities? Where would they place this class?
Can they use it for both?
They can, but not at the same time. They can use it for composition or humanities, but wherever they need. And thank you, Megan. Just wherever they want to put it. They don't have, they're not mandated to put it in any one or the other, wherever it fits for them. Now, Lit 2120 is also international. Okay, that doesn't apply to AML 2070. 12,000 words total. How do we know that those classes would give 6,000 words automatically?
All
Is
composition.
there gen ed composition?
All composition give you 6,000 words. Now, Chem 1 and Chem 2045 lab, what gen ed category?
Physical science.
Just physical science?
Or biological science. Oh, state. Is it state core?
State
Yes.
core.
Yeah.
State core. And again, you don't have to memorize that. You'll have a list, but I want you all to start picking up on what fits there. And chemistry isn't a biological science, which matters if you're speaking with the liberal arts and sciences major, but it's a science. We know it's a physical science, it's a biological science. The general education category is biological and physical science, though, so it counts in both. So it applies to both gen ed categories. Now, looking at the gen ed chart, and this is a different way to look at it, but this should look very familiar to you at this point. Let's fill in our classes, all right? Now, let me see how this is set up. All right, so AML 2070, we put in additional composition. Why can't it go in state core?
Because it's not a state core.
Because it's not a state core. Beauty and simplicity, right? BSc 2005 and Chemistry 1, does it matter which way I have those classes?
Negative.
Negative. They're both state core. Absolutely. So I could have wrote these any way I wanted. Now, moving forward, Lit 2120, why is this the only place Lit 2120 can count?
Because it's not a state core.
Because it's not a state core. And why else? Where do your other 3 hours of humanities go? Or what are they used for?
It's not a
IDS 1161 or IDS 2935.
Exactly, the Quest 1 requirement. So we know Lit 2120 can only go in the additional HSB or P. It's not state core. We've already filled our composition and it can't go in humanities. So it has to fall in the additional HSB or P. This is where you all, and I'm speaking to you all as an entire class, the additional HSB or P is 6 credits. And whenever there's 6 credits to put there, I just got 3 credits so many times, right? Now, continuing forward, Lit 2120 is also international. What do we know about international and diversity?
They're always attached to
Always
another
very-
general education.
They're tag-alongs. So Lit 2120 can go in HSB or P, but it also can go in international because we know this is going to be a tag-along gen ed regardless. All right. And then remaining requirements, they still need 3 credits, must be state core. They need 6 hours of humanities. 6 hours of humanities, 6 hours of math. 3 of those humanities need to be state core. The other need to be Quest. 6 hours of social behavioral science, additional HSB or P, and then diversity. Any questions how we got there? Because this 1-2 step incoming credit to gen ed chart is 40% of the battle. The other 80% is placement, but this is 40% of the battle, incoming credit to gen ed chart. All right. And that's if you can get to this point, things become much more simple. All right, let's keep going forward. Now, breaking down critical tracking, what does critical tracking mandate for APK? Someone read that for me.
Complete 2 of 9 critical tracking courses with a 3.0 GPA on tracking coursework. APK.
You don't have to read them. I'll cut you off, Graham. Just from those classes, right? We don't even we need to go through them, but we need 2 of 9 critical tracking classes from this list. So what does that mean for this student, Graham? What is tracking? How is this guiding us? What do we know we need to have on their fall schedule?
We know that they need to have credit for at least 2 of the 9 critical tracking courses listed there. So they don't actually have to take 2 of 9 if they already have credit for 1 or 2 of them. Then it's just up to, or sorry, a minimum of 2 credits. So I believe they have credit for at least 1. I think it's 2 of those credits. So they actually don't need to move forwards on their critical tracking in this first semester.
I think they have 1. I think they have chemistry credit, but we'll go back. Just looking at these classes, what classes would we never allow a student to take their first semester? Because yeah, this says 9 classes, but does the student actually have 9 classes to choose from?
No.
No.
So Rachel already mentioned 1. Bio 1's a no-no. That's going to make students upset. It's going to be confusing. All right. Why do we not recommend Bio 1 their first term?
Because there's 3 different professors. Oh,
go ahead,
sorry.
Victoria.
Because there's 3 different professors and it's going to be hard for them to adjust to like each style of teaching in their first semester when they're just trying to get their feet on the ground with college in general.
Absolutely. And also, Megan, it's a difficult class to transition into. Okay. And it's better to start with chemistry because chemistry requires placement. And if you don't place in the chemistry, you need to start working on your placement. All right. But what you explained, Victoria, is the route I would go. So we know they can't take Bio 1. What else can't they take?
The APK
MAC 2311.
MAC 20. Okay, they can't take MAC 2311 based off their placement, but that's an eligible class, right? What's not eligible?
The
Bio
APK,
1. What else?
The APK.
the high level APK classes.
Anything with APK. You're not taking APK anything your first semester. All right. So what we know what's off limits is APK 2100, APK 2105, APK 3110, Bio 1, Bio 2. Why is Chem 1? Jonathan, I asked your question first.
So I know a lot of students have take Bio 1 in the first semester, even though they're not like recommended. So how should we go around that?
What's our motto?
Oh, we can recommend, but we can't force them.
There's a difference between what a student can do and what we recommend. All right. So some battles we just can't fight to the end. We know why we don't recommend Bio 1. We also don't save seats in Bio 1. So there's not going to be a ton of seats for students to take. Right. But at the end of the day, Jonathan, you've done your part. You've explained why taking chemistry first is a better route. You've explained why we don't recommend Bio 1. But at the end of the day, there's a difference between what a student can do and what we recommend. And we just want to focus on our recommendations. But Bio 1, we don't have a lot of seats. So students, that's the first thing. Even if they ignore us and say, Jonathan's a liar, I'm not going to listen to him. When they get into the registration lab, there still may not be a seat available for them. But you guys understand how drop ad work. You guys understand how schedule adjustment works. By the time they get to drop ad, they might be able to schedule adjust in Bio 1, right? Now, what are the only eligible classes they can take for tracking?
It'll be Chem 2046 and 46 lab, and then PSY 2012.
Right. Now, why is Chem 1 X'd out?
Class they already had credit for.
Yeah, they've already got credit. So we're moving on. All right. Now, with that being said, with their tracking classes in play, Chem 1 is only met if their predictions are accurate, right? If we don't have their official score, what do we tell the student?
We have to use, like, you trust their judgment and like use that they passed or they received credit. And then if they haven't, you have to go back to when you do preview adjust, and you might have to change your schedule a bit.
Yeah, Jason, that's like happened to you 3 times already, right? You raise your hand and then the answer gets, so preview adjust. We accept predictions. If they don't get their Chem 1 credit, contact preview adjust. That's just a reminder when we're dealing with predictions here, all right? Now, what about, so what happens if a student earns a 3 and they don't get the Chem 1 credit? What do we do then? It's the same answer.
You just send them to preview adjust if you already set up their schedule.
Reminder to contact preview adjust. All right. If your scores don't come back how we project, contact preview adjust. Okay. Now, moving forward, Chem 2046. Jason, go ahead.
Yeah. So if they like don't get the score they predicted, is it our job to tell them to go back to preview adjust? Are we supposed to be like watching that?
So it's your job to inform them preview adjust exists. So if you're speaking with the student and they say, I think I got a 4 on chemistry, maybe I got a 3, right? Then we can use that prediction, but just say, hey, once you get your final scores, if you don't get a 4, make sure you contact preview adjust, because if you earned a 3, you don't have credit for chemistry 2045, and you need to go back and take Chem 2045, right?
So is there a way for us to see when they get their like true scores back so we can remind them?
Only if they took their junior year, right? At that point, it's just on the student to say, Jason told me to contact preview adjust when I got my scores. If they're incorrect, I'm going to trust that. But if you inform them of preview adjust, that's your responsibility. Jacqueline.
So, would a student not be able to register themselves for Chem 2045 without a confirmed score?
Yeah. So let's say they wanted to take Chem 2045, right? Is the student eligible to take Chem 2045?
No.
No.
What's the prereq? How many prereqs do you got to meet to take Chem 2045?
A confirmed score, an ALEC score, or a math course.
And the math can be predicted, right? Okay. Now, well, I think I'll bring that up, but this student isn't eligible to take Chem 1, even if they wanted to. They don't have the high enough ALEC, they don't have math. So if we were talking about, and this is where things can really fall apart at preview, right? But let's pull this thread, all right? I'm gonna stop this right here because this conversation is more important to have. We've got an APK student predicted Chem 2045 lab credit, ALEX of 70, no math, took AB calculus. And let's say this student tells you they want to take chemistry 1. Where's the first place we start when we're talking about placement? What's our first question?
Whatever credit they've earned.
Okay, whatever they earn. Let's make it a broader. It relates to towards our placement motto. Where do we want to start?
The ALEX exam.
Okay, ALEX exam. Again, I'm thinking more broader. Think about our placement motto. Where's the first place we want to start?
What the student's comfortable with taking and like their comfort level in the course and that, yeah.
I'll get to their comfort level because it's important, but there it is, Charisse. What can they take? If you start with what you can take, then you'll never get in trouble. All right. If you just start with what can a student take and then work yourself to the recommendation. Okay. Now, with this being said, and now I'm going to start jumping screens so you guys don't hate me. We know this student has a 70 on the ALEKS, all right? And we know that looking at a 70 on the ALEKS and predicted chemistry credit, can this student take chemistry 1? 70 on the ALEKS and predicted chemistry credit. Can they take the chemistry 1?
No.
No. That's my first place to start. I know that you can't take chemistry 1, so I don't need to think much about chemistry 1 because you can't take it. However, we know that chemistry 1 is in their program plan, right? We know that they want to take chemistry 1. So how do we help them meet the prerequisites in order to be able to take chemistry 1? Where do we go? Where do we go from here?
We throw them into Chem 25.
Chem 1025. Okay. So if we're going to put them into Chem 1025, because Chem 1025 is a prerequisite to take chemistry 1, right? What's our rule about Chem 1025?
If they can't take Chem 1 the next semester after, then they shouldn't take it whatsoever.
Absolutely. Now, if we're going to recommend Chem 1025, what else needs to be there?
The math credit for
The
it.
math. Now, when we take a look at the math, right, what math would we recommend based off of their ALEKS score?
Mac 1147.
Mac 1147, whoops, Mac 1147 based off of their ALEKS score, right? And how'd you get there, Joey?
I just kind of remembered the numbers. He had a 70 middle. It's like right in smack dab in the middle of 1147, and you need 1147 to take Chem 1. So
Absolutely. Now, if we recommend Mac 1147, let me bring my student back. If we recommend Mac 1147, why were you comfortable making that recommendation?
because of their ALEKS score,
And why else?
and
They took-
because you
Go
got,
ahead,
sorry.
Victoria.
you got it, Victoria. You got it.
They took calc in AP Calc, so that means they have background knowledge on it. So it's just going to be a review to earn that credit, and then take Chem 1 with Calc 1 in the next semester.
Because they have the exposure, right? 1147, we have the exposure. Now, if this student took Chem 1025 and 1147, could they take Chemistry 1 in the spring?
Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely, they could. So now I feel comfortable with this recommendation. But what you're going to run into in that, and what students can't see, but that you're going to have to see is, and this is where things really start to come together. All right. And this is where you start to realize why all this stuff matters in conjunction with each other. Because when we take a look at tracking for APK, where do you see Chem 1025? Where do you see MAC 1147? Are those classes on this list?
No.
But why is there still value in taking Chem 1025 and taking 1147?
Rachel hit it in the chat, but prereqs, you have to take them if you want to get in track.
Prerequisites. So yeah, Chem 1025 and 1147 aren't on this tracking list. But if you don't take Chem 1025 and you don't take MAC 1147, could you ever take Calc 1 or could you ever take Chem 1?
Nope.
Nope, unless you repeat the ALEKS. Do we recommend students repeat the ALEKS?
Nope.
Why
They're
not?
April Fools.
Yeah, why not?
Because we just go, because their first score is the most accurate.
Because their first score is the most indicative of success. Absolutely. Now, Joey, do you think there are going to be students that have taken the ALEKS 2 times, 3 times, 4 times?
Oh, certainly. And they better get 100 after that first time.
Absolutely. So then where does the placement motto protect us? And why will that help us keep in line? Because now this student's taken the ALEKS 3 times. We know the first score is most indicative of success, but they took it their third time. They scored a 95, right? So they've taken the ALEKS 3 times. Now they got a 95. So they can take Calc 1. right? They still don't meet the prerequisite to take chemistry, which is the reason why we changed the prerequisite. Students were repeating the ALEKS to take chemistry and still not doing well. So we made the math requirement standard, okay? Now I'm gonna throw a curveball because we got some mojo going here. What if we use our same student and they've got predicted Chem 2045 in lab, they've got a 70 on the ALEKS, and they took AB calculus, but they took the ALEKS twice and they scored a 92. What changes? First question, can this student take chemistry?
No,
Why not?
because they needed an official Chem 2045 credit, not predicted.
The
Or
math,
what else? Because the
the
ALEKS
math-
actually, if we use the 92 as a prerequisite, and I'm going share different screens, multiple, so I apologize again. But if we know this student took the ALEKS twice and they scored a 92 on the ALEKS, can they check? I don't know why he does that.
they need math credit, so they couldn't check off the math side of things. They'd only be able to check off the chemistry side, even if they took it twice.
So they only need to take off they can check off the chemistry side because they got the ALEKS score. They still can't check off the math side. But now that they have a 92 on the ALEKS, Joey, what math do we recommend?
Now we would recommend Calc 1
Why?
because they have background in it. So we know that they have like they've taken the class before, so they have some background in it. So we could advise calculus. Yeah.
Victoria.
We still wouldn't be able to put them in Chem 1 because it doesn't count because the ALEKS only places you into it and it doesn't give you the credit for any math whatsoever. So they don't check off the math box at all, and they need both a math box and a Chem box.
Absolutely. And we know that they can't take chemistry 1, right? But we still need to help them build a fall schedule. And so if they can't take chemistry 1, and we know they need to take a math to meet the chemistry prerequisite, what math do we recommend? They took the ALEKS twice. They got a 70 the first time. They got a 92 the second time, and they have AB calculus credit. What's your math recommendation? And there's no wrong answer here, all right? But what math would you feel comfortable recommending?
47.
Why, Graham?
Because I would believe that the first score is most important. I couldn't tell them this, but they already didn't pass the calc test once. They don't need to do it again.
Yeah. So Graham, I actually would lean more towards the 1147 for my recommendation. However, when we take a look at critical tracking, and again, I know we're answering questions without having speaking to the student, right? But there's also value in the student taking Calc 1 because they've been exposed to AB calculus. They were close the first time on their ALEKS score. The second time they did really well. And Calc 1 is a critical tracking class. So either way, MAC 1147 or 2311 would be an appropriate recommendation if you have reasoning. If you have reasoning, okay, I recommend Calc 1 because you've taken AB calculus, because you told me your comfort level in calculus was high and you can take that class. Or I recommend MAC 1147 because your first score is most indicative. You told me that in AB calculus, you don't feel that comfortable and that you feel like you would need a refresher. Either way, both answer can work, but it depends on the information we get from the student. Jonathan.
So on the same kind of scenario, like I don't know if we can see their actual grade in the course, what they earn. Like, for example, if they say like I had an A the whole year, but I couldn't pass the exam. I feel that in that scenario, I would feel more comfortable if they were comfortable going to Calc 1, because even though they didn't pass the exam, they had an A throughout the course, so they know how to do some of the material.
I love it, Jonathan. Like if they told me they had an A throughout the course, but then they just bombed the exam because the exams were online and we're in a pandemic, and I just can, you know what? I'm going to take that with their exactly, Joey. when it comes towards their comfort level, when it comes towards their background. But what do we know about what they can do? Can they take Calc 1?
Yeah.
Why do we know that, Joey?
Well, because even though they took the ALG score twice, the second time gave them the score that they need.
Absolutely. And if I know what they can do, I'm going to have an extra conversation with the student about their experience. As Jonathan mentioned, I'm going to have an extra conversation about their comfort level. And this is just let you know, things aren't always black and white. There's a gray area when it comes to us recommending classes. But let's go back to our example now. We know that, okay, based on your ALEC score, we're going to recommend MAC 2311, all right, for the fall semester. We know they can't take chemistry, but they got a 92 on the ALEX. Do we recommend intro to chemistry? They've already got the ALEX score, so they can check the box. Do we recommend intro to chemistry?
Yeah.
Why?
Well, you have to have you have to have confirmed math credit to get into chemistry 1. So without a confirmed math credit and them failing the AP Calc, regardless of what they get on the ALEX, they still need that confirmed credit. So we have to put them in intro to chem.
Well, they'll get their confirmed math credit by taking Calc 1 in the fall. Now, if they've got Calc 1 and they've got a 92 on the ALEX, they can take Chem 1 in the spring semester. So for this student, do we still recommend intro to chemistry? Yes or no?
Yes.
Why?
Because they're going to get to chemistry 1 eventually. It's just they can't check off both boxes for fall semester.
Right. So, but what I'm saying is, even if they don't check boxes, going into the spring, they'd be able to check the math box with calculus 1. They'd be able to check the chemistry box with their ALEX score. So they don't need intro to chemistry because they can use their ALEX for the chemistry box. But why would we still recommend intro to chemistry for this student?
If they want it.
If they want it, but why would it benefit them? Because students don't know what they want. That's why they're talking to me.
Well, if they don't feel comfortable and if they think they've got ALEX score, but they may not feel like they're actually ready for the class. They haven't taken a UF class in that subject yet. So they may want to just so they know what it's like and they can have that certainty. So if we at the end, perhaps after we've gone through their schedule, if they've got room or if it's between, we can at least put it in the mix of classes that they're looking to fill out their schedule.
We're trying to find classes to put on their schedule, but anecdotally speaking, what do we know about Chem 1 at UF?
It's difficult.
It's hard. It's hard. It really breaks students down, right? Now, has anyone taken chemistry in high school? Probably everybody, but yes. All right. Mel, what year did you take chemistry in high school?
I took it as a freshman.
Okay. What about you, Joey? When did you take chemistry in high school?
I think 10th grade or 11th grade. I don't know. It's a long time ago.
Usually 10th grade. What about you, Victoria? When did you take chemistry in high school?
I remember I took dual enrollment intro to chem my junior year, and I completely forgot everything going into Chem 1 my freshman year.
The reason there's still value in taking intro to chemistry, a lot of our students, as Megan mentioned, they took chemistry in 10th grade. So that's 2 years being separated. Also, we know that chemistry 1 at UF is one of the more difficult classes to take. If you can't take chemistry 1 your first semester, Rachel, there we go, creates good foundation. The intro to chemistry recommendation is still a good recommendation because what is intro to chemistry? How would you explain to a student what intro to chemistry is?
It's the first 6 chapters of Chem 1.
Spaced out over 16 weeks, right? So it's the first 6 weeks of Chem 1 taught at a slower path. And we use the fact that you probably haven't taken chemistry since your 10th grade year. Chem 1 is one of the most difficult classes at UF. You want to take Chem 1, your intro to chemistry, your first semester, if you plan to go to chemistry 1. So what this turns into is we recommend Calc 1 and intro to chemistry, or we'd recommend MAC 1147 and intro to chemistry. See you later, Joey. Or in MAC 1147 intro to chemistry. Which one of those is the right answer? Both, absolutely, both. Both of those work perfectly fine. depending on our conversation with the student, right? So it depends on their comfort level, the highest math they take it in high school, the math they took their senior year. We'll use all those things. See you later, guys. We'll use all those things to make an appropriate recommendation. Now, we've got 13 minutes, so I'll just finish off this case and then we'll just cut. Because I think this has been a really, really effective lab. So I thank everyone for the input that you've provided. Now, let's see here. Oops. So let's talk about schedule. Now, Chem 1, they need the credit. What do you also have to have in order to take Chemistry 2?
The math credit.
The math. Does Liliana have the math?
No.
No, she doesn't. Can she take Chem 2?
No.
No, she can't. Even if she gets Chem 1 credit, that is going to confuse students. You mean I have Chem 1 credit and I can't take Chem 2? That's exactly what I mean if you don't also have the math, all right? No matter what, if a student's gonna take Chem 1, or if they're gonna take Chem 2, or they're gonna take Chem 2047, they're gonna take any chemistry class, do you already have the appropriate math credit, all right? What about Calculus 1, which we just talked about? We actually don't have to go into that. So when it comes towards their schedule, 1147, IDS 2935, Quest 1 class, will probably use psychology as their state course, social behavioral science. Why did I choose psychology as their state course, social behavioral science?
I believe it was in one of the critical trackings.
And they're tracking.
It was, and these two things just go hand in hand. So I'm going to use your tracking to influence your state core class, right? These are my favorite type of labs because you all really influence the conversation. I do want to have another lab where we just go through just cases. Let's just go through a case. Let's talk through a case. But these type of conversations will help us be able to break down the cases. This seems like a good place to end. So thank you, everyone. The lab will be recorded as well. And hopefully we can do, I'll certainly keep one for next week, but I'm hoping we can get some more frequency in these because I know Joe mentioned my director yesterday, he only has 5 class periods before his class ends. So we're reaching that time of the year where, what do we got left in class? 3 more weeks, 4 more weeks till class is in, then you got exam week. Like we're at the end. So preview is a little over than a month away. So we'll keep doing these, but this was really inspiring for me to hear you all talk through this. And I would love to do these type of examples in class, but class is more so for teaching. The labs are more for breaking down and talking through. It's just the structure of the class. But I will go ahead and